David Marciano is the consummate professional when it comes to acting, writing, and directing. He started over 25 years ago and has achieved considerable success. Aging affects men and women differently, especially in Hollywood. Today we will discuss how aging in the industry has affected David and how he juggles being both a working actor and a dedicated father and caregiver. Welcome, David. Let's talk.
Okay.
So, David, how did you get started in acting and how did you get such wonderful success? Because you are a successful actor.
Well, thank you. Getting started in acting was not as easy as it sounded. I went to Northeastern University in Boston to be a biomedical engineer. After my freshman year, I had a 1.6. I had 28 out of a possible 48 credits. I was on academic probation, and I was on the dean's list. The dean has two lists.
I see. The bad list.
Yeah. Hey, Mom, I made the dean's list. She goes, wrong one, dummy.
Yeah, right.
So the dean calls me into his office, and he says, what's going on? I said, I am having the time of my life. He goes, I can tell. He said, but your mom is spending a lot of money for your college education, and you're just throwing it away. Here's the deal. I want you to take the summer off, and I want you to think about whether or not you want to be here at Northeastern. And if you do decide to come back, I'm going to give you one more chance. And you have to get a 3.0 or better, or we're going to kick you out. Just have a nice summer. So I went back, and I got a 3.5. I was back in the game, and I was really good in math. That's why I was studying biomedical engineering. So I tried economics, got A's, but I didn't really care for it. Tried accounting, got A's, but didn't really care for it. And when I took my SATs, I took something called an aptitude test. And the aptitude test is 100 random questions, no right or wrong answers, just likes and dislikes. The results come out in 3 professions. 3 professions were a mathematician, architect, and actor. So my guidance counselor calls me and he says, this is the oddest grouping of professions I've ever seen. He says, now I understand mathematician because you get all A's in math. I understand architect because between this third one, which is creative, and a mathematician, architect makes sense. But what can you tell me about this acting thing? I said, I don't know. He said, have you ever been in any of the plays here at school? I said, no. He said, I can see by your transcripts you haven't taken any drama classes. I said, no. He said, do you know anybody in the drama department? I said, you know, there's this one guy, Tom, and let me tell you something. He's suspect. I don't know what's wrong with Tom, but I don't want any part of whatever he's doing. So we figured it was a fluke. So after 2 years of college, I called my mom and I said, I'm quitting. You're throwing good money after bad. I might as well just come home and get a job and work my way up a corporate ladder and after 40 years retire and get a pension. She said, no, you're going to get a college degree. I don't care what you get it in, but people who have college degrees do better than people who don't. I said, well, I've tried everything there is to try. She says, well, remember that aptitude test? Yeah. You remember the 3 professions? I said, yeah. She said, why don't you take an acting class? And I said, Mom, you know what I know about acting? I go to the movies and there they are. She says, look, no matter what you do in life, you're going to have to get up in front of people and give presentations. I'm in insurance for 34 years. Before our salesmen go out into the field, we haven't taken an acting class to get comfortable with the one-on-one experience. It can only help you.
Good advice, Mom.
Mom's a smart lady.
Good advice.
Mom's a smart lady. So one semester I took statistics 2. I took accounting 2, acting 1, and stage and body movement 1, and I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So
it's a long answer to a short question, by the way.
No, that was perfect. That was a perfect answer because that is the answer. So what's your most favorite work that you've done to date? I know that's a hard one.
You know, I really loved being on The Shield. Probably one of the most enjoyable experiences of my acting career.
Why?
The people, the work, the character, the writing, Sean Ryan, who created the show. You know, my career had basically flatlined. You know, as a working actor and a middle-class actor and a character actor, you know, there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of dry spells. And I was in a huge dry spell, and my kids were in private school, and I couldn't afford to send them there anymore. So I made a deal with the headmaster because I had 2 kids, can I do something around campus where I can get a break on the tuition so I can keep my kids in private school? And he said, well, what do you like to do? I said, well, I said, the grounds are in horrible shape here. I said, I'm a pretty good gardener. I could whip this place into shape. He said, okay. And they gave me 2 for 1. And now Sean Ryan, who was the creator of The Shield, his kids were also going to that school. And he would see me, and he knew my work as an actor, and he would see me there working in the garden and planting the flowers and trimming the trees, and he would say, love your work, man, you know. I said, thanks, yeah. He goes, I'm thinking about you. I said, okay, I'm waiting. You know, season 2, that was season 2 of The Shield. Season 3, you know, I'd see him.
You're still cutting trees.
I'm still cutting trees, and there's Sean. He goes, man, I'm thinking about you. I said, I'm waiting. And then in season 4, he rolled up on me and he said, I got it. I'm going to call your agent and set up an audition. And turned my career around. You know, when you love to do something so much, and for whatever reasons you don't get to do it at the level that you have enjoyed doing it in the past, it darkens your creative soul. And so maybe that's part of the reason why I love it so much, why it was such an important job for me. Because it rekindled my career and made me feel like I was back in the game.
Mm-hmm. Gave you new energy.
It did. And The Shield was such a acclaimed show, critically acclaimed show, and an industry watch show, and it increased my value as an actor.
Yeah. You recently did a episode on SVU, which is one of my favorite shows, by the way. I've watched it for years, called Legitimate Rape.
Yes.
How did you prepare for that role? Because it was intense.
It was.
Just to give us a peek behind the preparation that you would do. I mean, that's just one episode.
Yeah.
How did you prepare? What did you do?
I don't prepare traditionally, like you hear actors prepare. Right. Like, you know, if someone's going to play a cop, they go ride along with the cops, and they, you know, they try to, you know, get an idea of what that feels like to be an actual cop. You know, when you're dealing with an episode like Legitimate Rape, you can't go out and, you know,
you better not.
No,
right.
and do something of that nature. It's a heinous act. So you try to tap into something about the character that a rapist is someone who covets.
Mm-hmm.
Is someone who is very greedy, someone who is very lustful, very selfish, who has no regard for another's feelings, another's body. So I start to talk my way through that mindset.
How that may feel to the.
What is that like to, you know? And I'll look for some sort of substitution in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
This is real hard to find a substitution.
Yeah.
And then you have to understand, it was a very gray area in this case. It wasn't a. She didn't say no. She didn't say stop. She didn't say don't do it. You know, as the story goes, we work together. I'm her cameraman, and she's a sports reporter, and we travel, and we get to know each other, you know, over years of time, and we have drinks after work, and we stay in the same hotels, and sometimes we go back to each other's hotel room. We hang out. We have another drink. We say goodnight. I started to misread some cues. She said, I think it's time for you to, you know, say goodnight. And I made believe I left. And she went to take a shower. And when she comes back out of the shower, I'm still there. And she's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, come on, you know, you like me. We like each other. We've been doing this a long time. And I tried to kiss her, and she kind of resisted, but not really. And it became one of those gray areas, but later on, she gets pregnant. And she doesn't tell anybody. She doesn't tell anybody about the rape until she gets pregnant. And then she decides to keep the baby. So it's, the preparation was more of a mindset of understanding the loneliness
Right.
that this man was experiencing.
Exactly. So switching gears a little bit, ageism.
Yeah.
We see it all the time, especially in the industry that you're in. Women may be affected by it more than men, but I know men are affected by it. Can you
Yes.
give me a minute or so on how has it affected you, and what have you done to change your approach to getting the roles because of it?
66% of all roles for white males go to white males under 30. So you can play that until you're about 35.
Right.
So once you're over 35, you're into your 40s and your 50s, now you're competing for 33% of the pie. So your opportunities are cut in half.
And so how do you change your approach to get the roles? I mean, what do you do specifically, personally?
There's nothing you can do about changing your approach. The industry views you the way the industry views you. Hopefully up to that point you have established a body of work
Right.
that is respected.
Right.
Hopefully you've maintained your relationships with both casting directors, directors and producers in which they know that you're easy to work with. The other difficulty you find, yes, the ageism plays a part, but there's also the principle of attrition, meaning that the actors who are now fighting for these roles are the better actors because the ones who couldn't really survive between 35 and 50 have all fallen by the wayside. So now you're dealing with the cream of the crop. You're dealing with the best of the best for a smaller piece of the pie. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Joe Reitman, today about it. And the bottom line is you have to start writing and producing and directing your own stuff.
Yep.
I mean, that's the only way you can really contend with it.
And that's probably why you've started writing and producing.
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So being a working actor, teaching acting classes, which we haven't talked about yet, but we will, writing projects and pitches, juggling caregiving, and living a fulfilling life is complicated. When that caregiving role involves a child with autism spectrum disorder, it's considerably more challenging and immensely more rewarding. David Marciano does it all with grace. Stay tuned to hear more today on Let's Talk.
Mr. Purcell, this is very unusual.
Your Honor, replacing counsel at this point puts an undue burden on Miss Jordan.
I either replace counsel or you need to call a mistrial. My lawyer, despite sharing my good looks, has been completely derelict in his duties.
Rick, you need to think about this.
You performed a barely credible cross with the SVU detectives, and you've conducted yourself like a drooling fan with Jason Hollis.
I'm not sure I agree.
Nor do I.
Your Honor, there's been countless issues of facts which he failed to address.
The alleged victim is 8 months pregnant with your child. You want me to come out guns blazing? It won't help your case.
I'm entitled to a defense, not an apology. Your Honor, if he won't fight for me, he needs to get out of my way.
Riding a bicycle can seem like child's play.
But only if you're playing indoors.
Riding in the real street has real consequences.
Play it safe. Ride by the rules. Cars and bikes need to play together.
He is passionate in all he does. He is one of the most open people I know. He's not afraid to talk about his life, his work, his challenges, and his desires. Because of his son, David devotes much of his time and resources to help educate and raise awareness of autism spectrum disorder. He's sharing his story today on Let's Talk. So I know David the actor. Now, can you tell me a little bit about David the father and caregiver and about Marcello?
Yeah. He's, you know, when when my wife first, my now ex-wife, first got pregnant, my greatest fear was that it would be a boy. Because I didn't want to repeat the relationship that I had with my father, with my son. And I didn't know how I was going to avoid that. So when I found out that my first child was a girl, I was very happy. And I would have been happy if it was a boy also. Marcello ended up being the greatest blessing I could ever have in my life. It took me 4 years to get around it, you know. At first it was a burden, and it was not so much of a why. I'm not a big why guy, but I am you know, like, really? Really? Okay. And I'm up for any challenge. You give me a challenge and that just lights my fire, you know. And you know, my ex-wife is an amazing, amazing advocate for our son, and he couldn't have been born into a better situation than the one he was born into. So we're very fortunate in that way. What was the question?
Tell us about your primary caregiving role and how, I know that you've spoke to me, you take Marcello sometimes with you on set.
I did twice, and I've not been able to do it. I have to, they won't allow me to do it any longer for insurance reasons, but I did bring him twice, and one time we had an incident which was really quite unfortunate. So I've had to stop doing that. But yeah, I'm his primary caregiver. You know, since my wife and I are separated 10 months, and he and I live together. So you know, I shower him every day and before he goes to bed, and get him up in the morning and make his lunch and get him dressed and drive him to school, and then pick him up in the afternoon. He loves his little iPod and his iPad, and he watches his movies, and we have a great relationship. For someone who's nonverbal, he's low-functioning nonverbal autistic, and we have a great relationship, and we have a great understanding, and we communicate well with each other. And just found out today that he's being moved to the Speech and Language Development Center in Buena Park. And next Wednesday, we're gonna take him down there to show him the new school, and I'm gonna have a new job, a chauffeur.
So how do you do it all? How do you manage to take care of Marcello and think about getting your next gig? And I know you're active mentoring with other young actors, and you do workshops, you help people, you're always helping others attain their goals. So how do you juggle it all, David?
I have a deep spiritual life that I've been working on for about 28 years. Little Buddhism, little Catholicism, or Christianity, little Judaism, Taoism, Emmett Fox, Course in Miracles. I'm always looking to deepen and broaden my spiritual outlook on life, and that's what carries me through. So currently, and I've had 3 or 4 different powers that are greater than me, that influence my life, and currently I believe in the spirit of a loving and infinite universe. So every morning in the shower, which is where I meditate, and because that's when I'm at my purest, I just wake up and you know, I'm naked and I'm having water rush over me, and what I'll do is I'll hunch down and I'll ask the spirit of a loving and infinite universe, where do you want me to be? When do you want me to be there? And who do you want me to be there with? And then I go about my day. And I do what's immediately in front of me every day. So how do I juggle it all? There's no juggling. There's just doing whatever is in front of me at that moment, or whatever my heart tells. If there's nothing happening in that moment, whatever my heart tells me to do. I live in my heart. I live from my heart, because the heart is love. It is eternal. It is knowledge, and it is unifying. The head, which I've had to stay out of and learned how to stay out of due to my improving my conscious contact with a spiritual life, is illusion. It's perception. It's fear. It's ego. It's separation. It wants to attack. So as long as I do whatever my heart tells me to do, everything is going to get taken care of in all areas of my life. My son's going to be taken care of because he's being guided and protected by the spirit of a loving and infinite universe. My career is protected and guided by that same spirit. For example, I'm walking down this 3rd Street. So I'm walking down 3rd Street and I see this woman, and she's like behind this cool looking black little Fiat, and I test drove the Fiat, and it was a cool little car, and this one was special though. This Fiat was special. It wasn't like the other Fiats I had seen before. So I said to this woman, I said, nice car. And she said, thank you. And I said, yeah. I said, I love the Fiat. She goes, oh no, it's not just a Fiat. I said, oh, I'm sorry. Well, what is it? And what is it?
It's an Abarth.
It's an Abarth. And I said, well, what's an Abarth? And she said, well, it's all souped up and it's this and that. And we just started talking, and I asked her what she did, and she told me, and she said, you kind of look familiar. And I said, yes. And we kind of figured out what I did. And she told me she has a TV show called Let's Talk, and would I like to be on it someday? And I said, of course I would. And we exchanged information. Now, that's what my heart, see, I'm walking down the street, and because I asked the spirit of a loving and infinite universe, where do you want me to be, when do you want me to be there, and whom do you want me to be there with, you were presented in my path, on my journey that day. And when I saw that car, my heart said to say to you, nice car. And because I did that, we are here today.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a perfect explanation.
And thank you.
So you have some strong views on euthanasia.
I do.
You want to share them with me?
Yeah. You know, the first time I heard the term, I was in grammar school. And I'm like, euthanasia, and I'm like, Y-O-U-T-H-I-N, Asia. What is this? What is this? Youths in Asia? What is this about? Kids in China, or you know, kids in Korea? No. And then they explained it to me, and I kind of just let it go. And then as I got older, I started to hear about this man, Jack Kevorkian, and very curious. Very curious, and so I did a little research and looked up the definition, and I thought, this makes sense. This makes a lot of common sense. And so I followed Jack, you know, through the media and the internet, and he was saying, you know, he said, what he said was, you know, we are more humane to the animals in our lives than we are to the human beings in our lives. And he said, you know, every human being, every citizen of America, but every citizen in the world should have the right. He said, based on the Constitution, which says we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So if I have a right to liberty, which is my freedom, and I have a right to my life, and I have the pursuit of happiness, I should be able to do anything I want with my life and or my body. Because if I am unhappy, if I am infirm, no matter how old I am, and let's say, because we're talking about ageism, say I'm in my 80s, and I'm ready, I'm done, and I want to go, because I am so unhappy. And the Constitution says I have a right to pursue my happiness, which if taking my life right now would bring me happiness. Getting me out of this pain body would bring me happiness. I have that right. to ask for that. You know, I have that liberty to ask for that, and it is my life. And I thought, yeah, I agree. You know, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, what do you want your legacy to be as a person and an actor? Let's start with person first.
Let's talk about want first.
Okay.
You know, desire, the Buddhists say that desire, which is what I want, what I desire, is the root of all suffering. Which is very complicated, you know, so how do I, because I don't want to suffer. You know, I want to live happy, joyous, and free. So I've worked really hard on minimizing my wants or my desires. Or some people, you know, people would come up to me and say, well, your career, let's talk about your career. Bruno Kirby came up to me. Bruno Kirby said, how do you choose, you play the greatest roles. How do you choose the roles that you play? And I said, I really don't. I said, I sort of audition for whatever comes my way. If it speaks to my heart, I show up, I suit up, I do the best that I can, and I get the jobs that I get. And the jobs that I get will define my career, will define my legacy.
Exactly.
So what do I want? I don't have a choice in what I want my legacy to be because I believe in destiny. And that's a fine line. I mean, I toy with destiny, manifest destiny, because you have to believe. First of all, look, I wouldn't have gotten to the place I have in my career if I didn't believe it, okay? You can't get to the moon unless you believe you can get to the moon. So yes, you have to believe in yourself and believe that you can attain and get what you want. But how much control do I have over the result? I don't. So my legacy will be what it'll be as an artist, and my legacy will be what it'll be as a human being, but I do strive to be more compassionate, more loving, more tolerant, more understanding, and more forgiving every day. And if that's a recipe for my legacy, then I guess that's what I would want it to be.
And I think that's enough.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with me.
My pleasure.
It was great to have you.
Yeah, I hope I didn't talk too much.
Never. Our program is brought to you by the Commission for the Senior Community, focusing on preserving and improving the quality of life for Santa Monicans 60 and older. For more info, visit our website on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching Let's Talk. Till next time, be well, live well, age well.